Tonight we are going in depth on Governor Kevin Stitt's 8th and final State of the State. While there were some policy announcements from the podium, some of the biggest whoppers, if the governor gets his way, isn't even in the hands of lawmakers at all, but in the hands of you, the voter. And some of this is stuff we've already voted on that the governor thinks we need to take a second look at.
I thank God for this opportunity to stand before you today to deliver my 8th State of the State address.
In his final State of the State speech, Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt celebrated the policies he's put in place over the last 7 years.
We've shown the nation why Oklahoma is the best place to pursue the American dream. Now, as we enter this session, let's keep this momentum going by uniting around 3 principles: reduce regulation, protect the vulnerable, and secure our state's future.
But Stitt says it's during his 8th and final year in office he wants lawmakers to send a series of ballot questions to voters, asking them in some cases to reconsider things they've legalized just years ago. Stitt says these policies have hindered Oklahoma's ability to be more fiscally conservative, and he believes it can fix problems the next governor shouldn't have to face. Stitt says the state needs to reconsider medical marijuana and Medicaid expansion, 2 things voters approved at the ballot box, and they were things citizens put on the ballot and not lawmakers.
We were sold a bill of goods. Out-of-state liberal activists preyed on the compassionate nature of Oklahomans. Then it opened up Pandora's box. Now we have more dispensaries than we do pharmacies.
Education reform is expected to be a big talker this session, but Stitt instead focused on reforming how the state's top teacher, the state superintendent of public instruction, is chosen. From the podium, Stitt said for years, the office of superintendent has been more about people wanting to run for higher office and less about educating children and putting solid policies in place.
Is the problem really that we haven't yet found the magic policy idea? Or is it that we have a politics problem?
In an interview with Fox 23 last week, Stitt indicated he would have fired now former State Superintendent Ryan Walters back in 2024, when he says Walters became more politically active on the national stage as Oklahoma's education ranking sank to 49th. But he didn't have the authority to do so.
We would have done it a long time ago, of course. We got sideways on several different topics. But the main thing is I didn't think that we were focusing on the kids, the students, and really focused on that. I thought it was more playing politics, trying to get your next election.
Democrats accused Stitt of trying to take health care away from the poorest of Oklahomans and said the governor's speech did nothing to address high insurance premiums, both for homes and health care, as well as rising utility costs. They said the speech was tone deaf to present needs of working families.
Oklahomans are having more of a difficulty keeping up with everyday living expenses. All throughout the interim, every person standing here today has talked to folks across the state, from the House Democratic Caucus, listening to people about how high their insurance is when it comes to home insurance, health care, utility prices that continue to go up, and there is no mention of lowering costs in the governor's State of the State speech.
They also said the governor has no one to blame for Oklahoma's poor education rankings in Walters except himself, since he endorsed him.
Is that if he had the ability to appoint his first education secretary or someone who he thought would lead public education, that would have been Ryan Walters.
Stitt, like he has in previous speeches, also continued to go after the state's tribal leaders, saying after the Supreme Court's McGirt decision, there are some people trying to create 2 Oklahomas, one for tribal members and another for everyone else. He equated tribal sovereignty issues with DEI.
In the wake of the McGirt decision, I have worked tirelessly to hold the line to keep one Oklahoma and to protect the rights of every Oklahoman. We need to come together and protect the vision that was cast in 1907.
On social media, Muskogee Nation Chief David Hill celebrated the speech, saying they were glad it was Stitt's last, and it's been no secret they hope for better days with a new governor next year. So the governor called for multiple new state questions in his speech, but 2 in particular were citizen-led ballot measures that state lawmakers had for years refused to consider at all. The governor is now asking for a revote of these 2, and he feels confident Oklahomans will agree with him to repeal them. The first is medical marijuana. Oklahomans legalized medical marijuana back in 2018 under State Question 788. The yes vote was 56.9%, or 577,582 voters, to the no vote, which was 43.1%, or 385,176. Keeping something in mind, however, the final voter data actually showed that this was a bipartisan issue, with there being many Republicans and independents also voting in favor of this measure. The governor says there is too much crime now associated with pot, and making it illegal again would allow law enforcement to properly address those issues.
Think about that. These storefronts hide an industry that enables cartel activity, human trafficking, and foreign influence in our state.
Now, supporters of medical marijuana continue to point to many benefits they say Oklahomans have already experienced. Many addicted to opioids have switched over to less addictive weed. Some consider it to be a more natural remedy as opposed to pharmaceuticals. And just like with CBD oil, they say there are benefits to pain relief and even has mental health benefits among helping cancer patients and others. Another citizen-led initiative that state lawmakers did not consider but was put up for a vote is Medicaid expansion. You may remember this one because it wasn't too long ago. Back on June 2020, voters approved State Question 802, which put Medicaid expansion into the Oklahoma State Constitution. The vote was very close, 340,572%. The vote was very close, and it was almost 50-50. Stitt says healthcare costs are too high on the state, and there are too many able-bodied people on the program now. And if the federal government no longer agrees to pick up 90% of the costs and shifts more to the state, it will be a fiscal nightmare for the state budget.
I always say government programs should be a trampoline, not a hammock. But too often that's not the case. Medicaid is Exhibit A. It's driving massive spending growth while enabling waste.
Democrats accuse Stitt of also trying to take health care away from the most vulnerable, including working Oklahomans who go to work but have jobs that do not offer any benefits. They say more people will end up seeking care in the emergency room instead of traditional doctor's offices should this be repealed. Now, those were just the two of what I counted to be around 5 or 6 ballot measures the governor wants us to vote on. Obviously, lawmakers will need to give approval to that. Stitt also called for the elimination of the Oklahoma Secondary Schools Activities Association, saying it hinders school choice. We'll have to go in depth on that at a future time. But that was just one of his talking points, the OSSAA point, where many in the chamber did give applause. Today marked the start of the 2026 legislative session, and things are just getting started. The first bills up in committee will begin in the morning, and we have a long way to go until the end of May, when session must adjourn.